United States has a significant role in events unfolding in the Muslim world today, but it also has a long history of financing and arming the enemies of its regional allies. In the past, such policies have resulted in more harm than good. Yet, that hasn't stopped the US from doing the same today. Let's go back and take a quick look at American adventurism. The Iran-Contra scandal. In the 1980s, the US allied with Saudi Arabia and Iraq against Iran during the Iran-Iraq War. Then, the Iran-Contra scandal broke out in 1985. Senior officials from the Reagan administration were caught violating the US-led embargo against Iran and selling Iran military weapons in exchange for hostages held by Hezbollah. The profits were channeled to fund the Contras in Nicaragua, a guerrilla force at war with Nicaragua's leftist government. What made this worse was that Congress had made aiding the Contra illegal just a couple of years before. Operation Cyclone. In 1979, the former Soviet Union militarily intervened in Afghanistan to defend its communist government from armed rebel groups. In reaction, the United States began Operation Cyclone to train, finance, and arm resistance forces known as the Afghan Mujahideen. This lasted over 10 years and cost some $3 billion, and eventually led to greater problems in the region. The operation played a large role in the creation of many armed resistance groups, including what are now the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And although the US tried to use a buyback program to keep unused military supplies from falling into the wrong hands, many of its weapons were later sold on the black market. Predominantly Afghan, the Mujahideen also included fighters from several Muslim nations. When the Soviets withdrew in 1989, many foreign fighters returned home, trained in guerrilla warfare, partly in thanks to the CIA. They later went on to fight in different insurgencies across the Middle East. One person who received direct aid from the US was Jalaluddin Haqqani, a close ally of Osama bin Laden. Haqqani played an important role in enabling the formation of Al-Qaeda and the Haqqani network in Afghanistan. Syrian War and Daesh. The Obama administration initially trained Syrian rebels fighting against the Assad regime. However, the program later shifted to only train and support rebels willing to fight Daesh. One of the most problematic of these groups is the Syrian Democratic Forces, made up mostly of YPG members. Here's why.
Aren't they the military wing of the PYD?
They are, yes.
Is that right, General Dunford?
That is correct.
They're a leftist Syrian Kurdish political party founded in 2003. Reports indicate that they're aligned or at least have substantial ties to the PKK. Is that true?
Yes, we have.
Is the PKK a terrorist organization in the eyes of the Turkish government?
The PKK is a terrorist organization not only in the eyes of the Turkish government, but in the eyes of the U.S. government as well, Senator.
Turkey is a fellow NATO member, U.S. ally, and major regional actor in the Syrian civil war against the Assad regime. It has engaged in armed conflict with the PKK since 1984, losing nearly 40,000 lives. The PKK is considered a terrorist organization by many other countries and international organizations, such as NATO and the EU. Last year, pictures and footage of US forces fighting in Syria while wearing PYD and YPG patches increased tensions between the two allies. Another leaked image was of Special Presidential Envoy Brett McGurk, with a top-level YPG member directly associated with the PKK. Seeing that associating directly with the YPG could lead to diplomatic problems in the future, the US advised the militants to change their name.
They formally called themselves the YPG, who the Turks would say equated to the PKK. You're dealing with a terrorist enemy of mine. How can you do that, ally? So we literally played back to them that, hey, you got to change your brand. What do you want to call yourself besides the YPG? And with about a day's notice, they declared that they were the Syrian Democratic Forces. I thought it was a stroke of brilliance to put democracy in there somewhere.
Recently, in a phone call between the US president and Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Trump said the US's support of the YPG is coming to a long overdue end. But just a few days later, the Pentagon said it was only reviewing adjustments for the weapons transfers to the YPG, showing a reluctance to let go of its ally. So, history has shown that the US has constantly butt heads with its allies by funding their enemies. And seeing that supporting insurgent groups has caused more harm than good, is this a policy the US should continue?